Well, am I a lucky girl or what? I get to speak to all of you. What a surprise. And if you close your eyes, you'll think Arianna is here. So how sweet. You know, I saw Arianna on the screen, and my heart just swelled. And that's partly, I'm going to stand up so you can all see me. I'm a family girl. How many of you are family people? And this tradition of the Thrive global culture that Arianna started, and I am very blessed to be part of it. And Joy Hubbard, which I want to introduce you to, is our soul brother and key facilitator, and travels all over the world now leading the Thrive Global seminars. He had just returned from Singapore, India, Japan, Accenture. How many of you know Accenture? The company is one of our clients, and so many other corporations. And Arianna started this. I'm sure she told you the story, right? How she collapsed out of exhaustion and decided that the life she was leading and the stress she was putting on herself was not working. Did she tell you that story? I was there, by the way, when that happened. I was in Carmelina Avenue in Los Angeles at our home. And sure enough, she had just returned from a trip and went straight to CNN and went straight to her desk processing her emails, because that's what successful people do, right? They never stop. They go with one thing after another. That's what she thought up until then. And she got up to get a jacket because it was cold, and collapsed and fell and hit her cheekbone and the corner of her eye, and there was blood on the floor. And the housekeeper and her assistant were there and said, Agapi, Arianna just collapsed. And I had a cold, and I went into the living room to her office where she was. I took one look at her and fainted. Now, it just shows you how resilient I am, seeing my sister collapse, you know. I didn't know what to do. And when I woke up, I said, let's call our best friend. It didn't even occur to me to call the emergency 911, because in Greece, you just call your friends. If you have problems, you just call your friends, right? Where is Alexis? Alex, am I right? Yeah, if Alexis was there, I said, call Alexis. She knows what to do. And sure enough, we took her to the doctor, and stitches and all the rest, and she started to change her life. She started to change her life by realizing that she had to implement one keystone habit, which is sleep. And she started to sleep a little bit more every night, first half an hour, then an hour, and she started to amount to 7 or 8 hours. Did she talk to you about sleep? Yes, she talks about sleep to everybody. And I live with Arianna in New York. If you come to New York, please let us know. I live with Arianna in Soho, very close to Aesop. Where is my friend, my new friend from Aesop? Kate, Kate, there you are. We live 5 minutes from Aesop. And we're often there buying things, including the Greek yogurt Chobani. We're very close to them too. We like to keep it like communal, you know. We like to keep our little corners. And actually, living with Arianna, she's my taskmaster, because if I dare have my devices at 11 o'clock an email, she goes, what are you doing? I said, I'm just sending one last email. She said, put them down, put them to bed. You got to now start unwinding. And I feel so guilty when I'm in my Facebook at 11 o'clock at night. Does everybody do social media at night? Well, you just come move in with Arianna for a week, and you get a lot of taskmaster about doing that. So I started to change my habits. I'm a night owl. And because of Arianna's, she did the Sleep Revolution. How many of you have read that book, by the way? It's an amazing book. Highly recommend it. I recorded the whole thing. It took me 5 days. And all the research about what sleep does to our brain. You know, we do not sleep for our bodies. We sleep for our brains. And the science is in. What happens to our brains if we don't sleep? I'm sure Arianna told you that it's the equivalent, if you sleep 6 hours a night, it's the equivalent of going drunk at the office. And people haven't gotten yet to realize that the more successful you become, the more sleep you must get. They equate success with less sleep, with more burnout, with continuous doing. But then if you look at the statistics, and if you look at amazing people now who are all coming out in the States, they're all coming out not as gay, but as meditators. And they're coming out of the closet, and they're telling us that they've been meditating for 30 years. Ray Dalio, Mark Benioff, Rupert Murdoch, George Stephanopoulos, Jerry Seinfeld, Mark Bertolini from Aetna. They implement all these practices at their workplace. So I want to empower you, inspire you, and assist you, because you're the leaders. If this culture is going to change, it's going to take all of you. And charity begins at home. You have to start with yourself to start implementing the good habits. Like the Greeks said, the Greeks said, what is a good life? We were raised with this principle. Socrates said, the unexamined life is not worth living. He also said, know thyself. Plato said, what is a good life? He talked about the soul. They had the conversations. Socrates did the midwife, the way of eliciting answers from within yourself. They talked about wisdom. They talked about the wonder of life. All these Greek principles, which actually both Arianna and I were raised, isn't that right? All of us. Community, family matters more than anything, cannot go out the window, because this new era after the Industrial Revolution has made us feel that we are like machines. And the people who work more, who never stop, will succeed more. And that's insane, and it's not true. And we must look at the data, we must look at the sciences that who tell us that the people who pause, who take time out, who have real holidays, who spend valuable time with their families. When we ask people in the Thrive Global seminars, what do you want more of? People say, I want to not miss my son's soccer game. I want to go to the recital of my daughter. I want to take my kids to school. Do you agree? Do you relate to that? And if you go to memorials, you always hear about the things that people valued, how they gave to each other, how they made a difference in people's lives. You don't hear about somebody saying, she was amazing, she finished all her emails before she died. And you know what? She never took a break. She ate lunch at work on her desk every time. Do you ever hear that? No, you hear about how people excelled and they gave and contributed to the community. So we must not lose those values, and we must encourage people to take their whole self to work. Don't leave your heart. I'm all about the heart. I spoke and I wrote a book called Unbinding the Heart. That was my culture. I brought that with me through the acting, through the performing, and now through Thrive Global. Because today, Joey and I spoke to 150 women and 4 men. I said, what did you women do with your men? They just only had 4 men in this seminar. I'm so happy to see so many men here, because men have so much wisdom and so much leadership. And in our world, these men, as we women, we must honor them, because there is this separation between men and women. We have separated like the weaker sex, the stronger sex. Women must break the glass ceiling. I think women and men should absolutely partner to bring this culture, this wisdom, and we as women must encourage the men to be the leaders as much as men must encourage us women to be the leaders ourselves and bring the nurturing, the compassion, the kindness. I think Australian people are so kind. They really touch my heart. They're very close to the Greeks, I think, because they have a sense of community. They have a sense of giving. And I don't know why in America we've kind of lost some of that. We've made the dollar the god. We've made the success the god. And when you look back, it's not the things we acquire. It's in the knowledge, in the wisdom. It's to really helping young men and women to value what they value and live according to those values. We cannot let and sacrifice those values to what we call success. Because ultimately, all the mystics and all the great teachers in life have told us that success is a feeling of contributing to humanity. Success is a feeling where you go to bed feeling at peace at night. And why we practice things like meditation and mindfulness and taking time out, and why do we practice prayer and gratitude? Today, when we talked about all the practices, and we had a little exercise where everybody goes around and tells what they're grateful for. And we couldn't stop people, because when you open that channel of gratitude, life is amazing. Amazing. I have a book, a new book out called Wake Up to the Joy of You, 52 Practices and Meditations for a Calmer and Happier Life. And when I go into a room and say, how many people here experience anxiety? And everybody raises their hand. I said, how many people here would like more calmness? And everybody raises their hand. Why couldn't we calm human beings? I mean, I know there is so many disasters happening in the world, but the way to thrive is to start owning that calmness. That calmness comes from this higher place of our soul, the soul connection, the heart connection, the wisdom connection. And we must access it. And meditation is just another way to practice to return to the deeper part of ourselves. I know that today you had a gentleman who used to work with Steve Jobs, right? Well, Steve Jobs was a big meditator. Most of his great ideas happened when he was meditating and he was not plugged in his computer. Do you know that at his memorial, there was a book given out that he had put in his will, that he wanted everybody at his memorial to get that book in a little box, in a little wooden box. And do you know what that book was? It was called the Autobiography of a Yogi. Did you know that? Isn't that amazing? Steve Jobs gave at his memorial as a present the Autobiography of a Yogi, which is an extraordinary book. It's the story of a yogi master called Paramahansa Yogananda, who lived in India and then came to America. It's a book that has, oh, do you know that book? I hear you nodding. It's an amazing book because he wanted people to know about that part of his life that he didn't talk openly. Because sometimes there is shame about talking our spirituality. But we have 37.2 billion cells that are creating us constantly, that are dying and regenerating. That's the miracle of life. We're made out of that. We're living in an awesome universe. When you read about the cosmos and the universe and who we are, it's awesome. So not to live in awe and gratitude and reverence is hubris. There's a play at the moment in New York and all over actually. It's called Hamilton. How many of you have heard about it? It's a musical. And it's a huge success. And Lin-Manuel Miranda is a Puerto Rican actor and songwriter who started that. And he said in an interview, Arianna interviewed him, and you can go online and read about this man because he was extraordinary. And he said, Arianna said to him, how come you're so creative and so prolific? And he said, I live in the principles of Alexander Hamilton, who Alexander Hamilton was one of the founding fathers. He was an immigrant, and he has an amazing story. And the musical is about Alexander Hamilton. And he said, Alexander Hamilton said, tomorrow is not promised. And that makes me be the best of myself every day. Tomorrow is not promised. It's the most extraordinary thing. We think we will have tomorrow, and hopefully all of us will have many more amazing days. But yet, we cannot take tomorrow for granted. We've got to sort of summon up and be the best of ourselves and kind of go into a deeper centered place inside and not deny ourselves the gift of who we are and give that to each other in service to humanity. I think you have a company here called the Australian Private Capital. Am I right? That's you. You know, I love that. I love that Australian private capital. My mother used to say, your human capital is the most important thing in life. How do you take care of your human capital? How do you invest in yourself? How do you place more value in yourself so that you can thrive? So we're returning to those principles and reversing the culture that told us we have to do more in order to be more valuable. That's an erroneous statement that we must not adopt as society. So I give you these principles that you already know, but I want to encourage you to bring them to your work, to your university, to the young people who are searching and looking and who are so super connected to the devices and technology, and to know that we've got to disconnect and to give them so many suggestions and ideas and examples of great successful people who disconnect in order to connect again. Disconnecting daily is a practice of gratitude, of reverence, of prayer, and starting and ending your day so that at the end of your day you feel fulfilled and you feel it's worth it. My life is worth it. I can talk forever because I feel very passionate about these things. But I'm just going to wrap it up and just tell you one of my favorite quotes by Ian Thomas that Arianna has in the Thrive book that says, every day your life will drag you by the hand and say, this is important, and this is important, and what about this? And you should take care of this, and what about that? And your responsibility is to take your hand back, put it in your heart, and say, no, this is important. Thank you.